Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Whitehouse ISD Board of Trustees. I call this meeting to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code Chapter 551. The board will now convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 through 551.084. We are adjourned. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Tonight's brief introductory remarks will be given by Mrs. Conaway.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. God, I thank you for this district and for our community. I just pray that you would be with us tonight as we make decisions for this community, and pray that you forgive us where we fail you. It's in your holy and precious name I pray. Amen.
All right, we did not have any recognition tonight. It's hard to keep people to come get recognized when they just got out for the summer. So, yes, no one signed up for open forum, so it takes us to our information items. First off, tonight we'll have Jody Bullard giving us a School Health Advisory Council annual report. Welcome.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you for having me. I am the chair of the SHAC this year, and I'm just going to cover a couple of things that we have been doing. The first is the Health and Wellness Honor Cord, which has been coordinated by Dr. Lee Mitchell. The Honor Cord is the cord that students can wear at graduation. There's a list of requirements that the students have to fulfill in order to earn a cord, like proof of a dental visit during the past year, proof of an annual physical. They have to write a brief on volunteer service. There's videos that they need to watch and answer questions regarding those videos. And if they check all the boxes, and they earn themselves a little bit of extra bling at graduation. So this program has been in effect for the last 3 years. The first year there were 11 Honor Cord recipients. Last year there were 18, and this year there were 39. So all 39 of our recipients this year were entered into a drawing, and 2 of them were selected to win a $500 cash prize that was donated by UT Health. The second item that SHAC has addressed in the past year is the Public Health Hero Award, which is a scholarship available to students in grades 9 through 12. Up to 4 people can be in a group because it involves a project that has an impact on public health. Again, UT Health was our sponsor of this $1,000 scholarship, and for this past school year, 2 juniors won the award, Tony Starnes and Rachel Imezarique, and they will receive their money upon graduation and with proof of enrollment in an institution of higher learning. And finally, the SHAC has focused this year on LICE best practice. The purpose is to align district policy with current best practice. And per the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the National Association of School Nurses, best practice guidelines for LICE are that there should be no exclusion from school. So just a basic on lice. Lice don't jump or fly. They crawl with extended head-to-head contact with somebody else typically. And quite honestly, a head lice infestation likely started 4 to 6 weeks prior to the itching developing. So by the time they start itching and showing signs, those lice have been around for quite some time. So does Whitehouse have a lice problem? No, they don't. But for students who chronically have lice, a change in the policy would help improve their attendance. Attendance could have an impact on their academic success. And also there's a stigma that comes with lice that could be prevented by implementing this change, because the literature does show that students with lice can experience embarrassment, isolation, and psychological distress. So our proposed plan as a SHAC is to implement a head lice education program for consistent messaging district-wide. This will be a set of standardized head lice videos, one for faculty, staff, and parents, and another for students. And the video will cover things like head lice transmission, prevention measures, and things of that nature. These videos are being designed right now free of charge by one of our UT Tyler medical students. And the videos will be reviewed by the SHAC committee and ready for use for the upcoming school year. And that is all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all the work on it. That takes us to the ever-entertaining Glenn Ray for our finance update.
Y'all asked for it. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Robbie, for that introduction. It's that time of year. This is the normal June update that we normally give a pretty good summary at this time of year, because there's not, in a typical year, there's not a lot that goes on between the beginning of June and the end of July. And so the items that I want to address tonight are the items listed here, just a list of variables that impact our revenue estimates that I can update you on. Some of these that we've already talked about in the April and May meetings, but I'll update where I need to. And then we'll talk a little bit about where we currently stand, and then some questions and discussion. And feel free to ask your questions and stop me to clarify or whatever. As far as average daily attendance, we've talked about this pretty extensively, but I'm just going to say our historical data going into COVID showed that we were on a huge upswing for enrollment and ADA, and then of course it fell off. And then, but by the end of 2021-22, we had built back up close to our all-time high that we had before COVID. But the 2 years after that, I should say 22-23 into 23-24, and then 23-24 into the current year, 24-25, or that we just finished, showed that drop-off in enrollment and therefore ADA. And so what we're hoping for is that our new transfer policy is going to help us reverse that trend. And the relationship, I do want to point this out, though, that the relationship between our fall enrollment, and that's what we're comparing there whenever we show that enrollment trend and the ADA, the enrollment is the fall enrollment on the PEIMS as of date. The ADA is the average daily attendance for the whole year, but because of the consistency, we get that relationship where those curves move together. What we're not sure is that with the school choice legislation that has passed, what that might do for mobility and therefore that relationship between the two. But we anticipate that it will not impact us hopefully too much, and that we'll still be able to rely on those relationships. This is a graph. I'm not going to talk really extensively about it. You've seen variations of this. I've used it for other things. The blue line is enrollment. The red line is average daily attendance. The anomaly there in 2019-20 is COVID, obviously, where those curves don't move together. But the dashed line is our projections. Actually, 24-25 is our actual after the transfer policy. And then 25-26 is our projections with the transfer policy. The solid lines indicate the trend that our demographers said we were following if we just kept on down the same path. And so, as we discussed, that's why we changed the transfer policy to try and stem the tide there, if you would, and turn that curve. And of course, it goes without saying, enrollment drives average daily attendance drives our revenues. So this is a slide that I showed at the last meeting. I wanted to show it again because this is, you see the $390 million increase in our appraisal roll. That's equates to 11.5% increase. Of course, as we've discussed in the past, this does not impact our revenue stream. It's because of some things we're going to talk about a little bit later, local fund assignment. Whenever you get this type of increase, you normally get compression, tax rate compression, And so you end up swapping some dollars there. The pot of money doesn't get bigger. It just, it becomes either more because your property values went up and you get to collect more taxes and less state revenue, or compression pushes it down and they fill that gap with additional state revenue. But, so I do want to say this about certified values. We use certified values to help us make estimates. We use this to calculate our funding formula revenue, but we also use this to help us estimate some of the other inputs. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here, is state certified property values. The state values are necessary for this calculation of local fund assignment, that is that mix between local and state revenues, and the maximum compressed tax rate. So the state will release those numbers to us for our state certified property values, our preliminary numbers, in January, okay? And so what does that mean? Well, we have to adopt this budget in August. And so that's going to be a major estimate that we're having to make there. So it's necessary for us to make that estimate months in advance. And we use those local certified values, but we don't have certified values. We have preliminary values. That's what I showed on the previous slide. And then we use some historical ratios. The historical ratios have become less consistent because we have hold harmless and homestead exemptions that help serve to push those tax bills down, right? And so it impacts the relationship between what ultimately becomes your state certified values and your newly calculated local values. So now this one's kind of fun. I know you don't believe that. The maximum compressed tax rate is another item that has to be estimated. This was created with House Bill 3 in 2019. And what this serves to do is, again, to compress those the tax bills to keep them down as property values were going up statewide. Instead of just letting them go through the roof, this was implemented to keep taxes from just getting out of hand. And so you compress the M&O tax rate as property values rise. The taxable value increase, again, does not, that doesn't equate to a proportional rise in overall revenues because of that local fund assignment we just talked about. The state establishes that MCR based on a statewide growth rate, but based on our local growth, we can have an additional 10% band of compression, and we have typically over the past few years had the maximum compression. But I do want to point out here that the MCR is, it's one of those, we don't really have a lot of choice about what our tax rate is going to be. That gets dictated to us because if we tax below the MCR, we not only lose the tax revenue, but the equalized state revenue that pairs with it. And so we actually lose money on both ends if we tax below that MCR. We can't legally tax above that, and so that ends up being our Tier 1 rate. To estimate that MCR, this is where the fun part starts. We need those local certified values that we don't have. And then we use those to project the state values, right? And then we use both of those numbers to project our MCR. And so it's estimates based on estimates. So you see what kind of ends up happening with the compounding there. The rate compression for this year is expected to be lower. A couple of years ago, much of the historic budget surplus was used for tax rate compression, and so we got a pretty big compression that year. It's estimated that will be lower this year, and we'll share that with you as it becomes available. I want to talk a little bit about the funding formula components. This first bullet is really just about we project that our numbers, our full-time equivalents in those areas of special ed and CTE will increase. And number one, the special ed, that's across the board. That's statewide. That's an increase in identification that's been happening for years on the special education end. The CTE, that's some programmatic changes that we plan to make and have started to implement and continue to implement, and some offerings at our junior high, and then the way we handle some things at the high school. So we would expect those weighted FTEs to increase and therefore drive some additional revenue. As far as the funding formula components, that's what the legislature, we're talking about House Bill 2 here, and these are some components of what was done in House Bill 2. Special education weights, that has been changed. It's not set to come into effect until 26-27 year. There is a path where we could potentially get some relief even through this in the 25-26 year. And there's some uncertainty about that. The teacher retention allotment is the big one. That's the teacher pay raise, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. As far as the that third sub-bullet, allotment for other employee raises, that's the support staff retention allotment. That's the allotment that was set aside at a lesser rate for non-teachers, non-administrators. So everyone except administrators is addressed in those two. And then there's an allotment for, it's a basic cost allotment, and that's to help us offset some of our inflationary costs. And you can see there the items listed: insurance, utilities, some transportation, employee benefits, that type of thing. And then there's a special education assessment allocation. That is for identifying special ed students and to offset the cost associated with that identification. That's not an exhaustive list, but I wanted to show you this because things got a little bit dynamic, and we have quite a few more revenue drivers in this formula than we've had in the past. So where do we currently stand? Well, we're dealing with estimates and uncertainty. You heard the spiel, but the expenditure budget steps that we have in progress, we continue to, as we have been doing, monitoring student-to-teacher ratios for staffing. Personnel and other expenditure requests are being submitted and reviewed. You see there, and we're talking here about whether these are items that need to happen now, whether they're wants or needs, whether they need to happen now or later, and all of that is being assessed. And then consideration of salary and benefit changes are being discussed pretty much weekly, if not daily. To dig a little deeper into this is House Bill 2. That's the teacher retention allotment. The $4,000 to $8,000 range is where we fall. Most of our teachers, the $4,000 for teachers with 3 to 4 years of experience, $8,000 for 5+ years of experience. By my estimates, that will generate about $2.6 million. The problem is that it's not a problem for teachers. We spend that on teacher salaries based off of this year as an increase going into next year. But it's that second sub-bullet there. There's the potential there for additional above statutory minimum TRS retirement payments from the district, and that is not funded through this. So you can see that the bill for that is $215,000. So that bill ends up costing us about 2.8, a little over 2.8, and we get a funding of a little under 2.6. So same type of thing happens on the support staff retention allotment. That calculation comes out to about $175,000, and a 3% raise for all of those non-teacher, non-administrator. And again, we're not talking about the administrative professional scale, but that a 3% raise costs about $250,000 there. So that you come up a little short there. Also, if you're going to do equity adjustments to keep, if you'll recall, in 2019, there was another group besides teachers that was tied in with teachers for mandatory raises. If you try to keep that group together, like the legislature did in 2019, and make some equity adjustments for what is not funded now, it's been decoupled. That's another $176,000 that is not funded there. So, this is, I think this is the next to last, yes. Next to last slide, and we're really talking here about the impact of that, that teacher retention allotment. An increase in teacher salaries just causes that compression, okay? Historically, there has been a path, a career path, whether you like it or not, where teachers move out of a classroom to advance in their career. All right, I know the state's plan is to, or their thought is to keep good teachers in the classroom. But what ends up happening is you have the potential for your teacher salaries to outpace some of your administrator salaries, to the point where those who are supervising teachers are making less than teachers, or less, at least on a daily basis, than a teacher. And so this is something that has been discussed. I've discussed it with other CFOs. I know Dr. Whittle has discussed it with other superintendents. Our peers around here, it's been discussed statewide. Everyone is looking at this the same way and just trying to wrap their head around it. And so some of the things we've talked about, obviously, are do we extend raises to kind of keep some of this compression from happening, or get creative, maybe with calendars by giving a raise and also reducing days so you can combat that daily rate, compression at least. And then I just wanted to point out here on this last bullet that each 1% increase in the administrative salaries costs about $65,000. And of course, that is unfunded, no question, that is unfunded in this. And so it's the only one that is not addressed. So with that said, questions, discussion? Is there anything you'd like me to clarify?
Based on all those suppositions, where do we stand?
Well, right now, there is a lot of money in House Bill 2. The problem is it's locked up, and we still have those other costs that have been increasing as we've talked about in the past. So this is a very good thing for a number of our employees in House Bill 2. But my best estimates, based on my best guess and estimating and recreating, and because all of the budget runs that we get from our organizations, they make assumptions. They use old historical data in some cases. We really have some better numbers, but it takes us a minute to get those compiled, and especially with the new revenue drivers that we can't just pull from a report. And so my best guess, we're sitting somewhere in the $2.5 million deficit range right now. And that, there's a number of things that go into those assumptions. And so it's probably a discussion for another day when we can actually talk about what those assumptions are. But I feel fairly confident that we're at about $2.5 million, and that's a lot of that is because we have lost the the 5 disaster pennies that we had last year that we were able to tax. And so we would have actually cut that deficit down some from the 1.7 that we had this year, but we're losing. We have to take a step back on those disaster pennies, those 5 disaster pennies. So that loses us about 1.25. So about half of that is what we lose.
Also noticed one of your line items in there was that there was some provision for, inflationary costs. I mean, we've talked a number of times that, we're paying $20, $25 prices with $20 and some of the biggest increase.
Mm-hmm.
Line item that covers some of that, your estimation that it's just not enough.
Absolutely not enough. I mean, I will say that allocation, I believe my calculation on that was a little over $500,000. And when you consider that our insurance since 2019, which is what we're kind of fighting here, our insurance has increased $700,000, our insurance premiums annually. And of course it was stepped, but that's not a one-time hit. That was a little bit here, a little bit there, and we're up to $700,000 and going through the process of an RFP right now to try and see what we can get as far as value on our insurance. But since 2019, when this was last adjusted, $700,000 increase in our insurance premiums, and this is $500,000 finally now, today. So it doesn't even make up just that one element, and that's just one item. So.
Firm number of new transfer students that are coming in the fall, and you have an estimate?
I don't have a firm number. I have an estimate. We had a little over 50 this past year. After we implemented, there was a little over 50. Of course, we had some coming and going. That's the typical. But we also estimate that we're a little bit over 50 that have committed to coming next year. So in total, you would think 100, and then or a little bit over 100. And we've got, let's see, because of the time frame of the implementation of that transfer policy, we didn't get a full year's worth of ADA from those kids. And so you would think you would get an additional bump because those kids will have been here for a full year, and so you'll get a full year's worth of ADA off of it.
50, we still had 90 short total.
Going back, from the previous year, that enrollment was before the implementation. That was the fall enrollment. That would have been before we got a lot of our, and that's what I was saying earlier, is that relationship between, that last bullet there, that relationship between fall enrollment and our ADA, because of that mobility and that ability to choose. And if people decide to get mobile during the year, you might lose some of that relationship, predictive relationship between.
When you said you're not anticipating a large number leaving due to that mobility, is that based on other schools in the area having the ability to take more kids? Are they at their maximum, or do they have an ability to take, one school could take 10 or 15 or 20, and one could?
I don't know that it's a question of capacity. For us, I think it was really more a question of what were our peers doing versus what we were doing. If you'll recall, we were kind of an island here, a holdout, not taking transfers, and everyone directly around us was taking transfers. And so it was kind of a one-way street coming from Whitehouse to other districts. Now we're able to reverse that trend somewhat, and maybe at least recapture some of the students that we've
I guess I
lost.
was specifically referring to parents using the school voucher system for other schools in this community.
Mhm.
you said that wouldn't affect us. Is that because the other schools, there are no new schools planning to be independent school voucher schools, or the ones that will take that, they don't have as much?
You know, I think, I guess the way I would frame it is that we've, around here, people have had choices anyway for a long time. And now they have the choice to come to us. They've always had the choice to leave us. Now they have the choice, you know, well, with our transfer policy, they have the choice to come to us. But then as far as the vouchers, I guess what I'm saying there is, and as far as mobility, is there's an easier path out or from one situation into another situation. You know, if I don't like where I'm at and what's going on here, I can move on to somewhere else. So.
As always, thank you for all the work on it.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Appreciate your keeping us solvent.
My pleasure. Thank y'all.
And then Tara Matthews is going to present our staffing update.
Yes, sir. All right, Dr. Robbie, Dr. Whittle, School Board. In March, I had came and told y'all that we would be doing a staffing review with TASB. Now we have completed that process and wanted to give you an update of where we're at. The project goal just is to compare our district staffing to benchmark data, peer districts. This was a snapshot of time in March of 2025, so the data and the enrollment of that time. Data sources that they use are the TSDS information, PEAMS, the TAPER report, the HR, TASB HR data sources, which is a great resource to us. And then also professional organizations such as the Texas Counseling Association. They give out a lot of benchmark information that we can use to staff. We talked about our peer districts. We had a great group of peer districts. There were 12 of them that were compared based on enrollment, demographics, academic performance, funding levels. Whitehouse at the time had 709 staff, a little over 4,800 students. And then you can see that they compared us to our economically disadvantaged, our limited English proficient students, and then also our special ed students. So at that time, we were at 15.5%. This is a little bit about our historical enrollment staffing trends from 2019 to 2024. So you can see on the left-hand side, our student enrollment declined slightly by 2.2%, which is a very minimal amount, but our special education enrollment had increased by 32% over that time.
Excuse me, Ms. Matthews, that also include, there was a kind of a change where dyslexia was then included in special education, so those students were also kind of
shifting
pulled
over.
in.
Yes. So those increased from 568 kids to 750. On the right-hand side, you can see kind of how our staff compared. You can see some of those increases increased over certain areas and then decreased in others. So what does that mean? We have some work to do. We have some opportunities to maybe decrease some of our staff to match our enrollment and to make sure we watch enrollment over the next year or so. Hopefully with our out-of-district transfers, it'll keep increasing. But these are the areas that they said we might be able to take a look at. But you have to remember factors to consider. It's not apples to apples. You can look at spreadsheets, you can look at numbers and compare, but there are things about each district that are unique. So our demographics and needs, yes, we can look at that and compare, but we also have to look at the programs and the initiatives we have in the district, our vision, our district size and complexity, our efficiency and technology, what technology resources we have to optimize our workload. And then historical factors and our organizational culture, what Whitehouse wants for their students and their staff. So that's something that's important for us to take into consideration. And then, of course, external factors that we have no control over is our state and federal regulations and funding that comes to us. So these are the TASB recommendations. There's a few key areas that they said we might want to look at. On the left-hand side, you'll see the staff that we can look at, one of which is assistant principals. The benchmark for assistant principals, not taking into consideration what each type of assistant principal does, whether it's secondary or elementary. But the benchmark is 450 students per one assistant principal. We are slightly lower than that. So there are maybe some areas by attrition. If we lose an assistant principal, we could maybe look at that. Library staff, they presented a couple of different models, librarians versus media tech specialists versus support aides. We have some opportunities to maybe look at that by attrition and see if we want to maybe revamp that staffing model. Counseling staff, the benchmark is 350. We are slightly lower than that, but we also have to take into consideration we have SEL counselors, we have a college and career counselor that is also taken into consideration for that benchmark. Clinical staff, I've seen TASB come back with this many times if you want to go registered nurses versus LVNs. Obviously, LVNs would be cheaper, but it just depends on what we want our clinics to be able to do for our staff and our students. So that's an area that we can review. Special ed staff, we are currently lower in teachers versus aides, and so I've seen many different models where we have more teachers than aides, or you can look at it and say, okay, we want the appropriate amount of teachers, but getting more aides gives you more hands in the classroom. So that's another option that we can look at. And then as far as the assessment staff, we just need to review caseloads, make sure we optimize those to make sure that the caseloads are even among our staff. Central office and auxiliary staff, you know, it just kind of depends. When you talk about auxiliary, there's a lot of opportunity to outsource plumbing and HVAC and all different things like that. So just to look at what we do in-house versus what we outsource, and then just make sure we're staffed appropriately for what we do and how much square footage, meals per labor hour we looked at. So those are the types of things that we can come back and look at. So those are our areas. Okay. So recommendations, there was kind of 3 key things, which was consider internal analysis for specific departments and campuses, monitor enrollment, because enrollment is ever changing, especially with out-of-district transfers. Create a staffing matrix for the district. That's something that taking into consideration all of those benchmarks that they've given us, and make sure that we look at that, make sure we align with it after this review has taken place. And then provide allocation sheets for all the campuses and departments to make sure that they know this is my enrollment, these are the staff that we have, and we can continually watch that to make sure that we're staffing appropriately, making sure that when either enrollment increases or declines, that we make the appropriate changes at that time. Next steps is district leadership to review our options and determine alignments with strategic goals and resources. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we can figure out maybe over several years by attrition, maybe making some of these changes that would give us some of our dollars back. So, any questions? No?
A lot of work, but it sounds like we've got some opportunities.
It is.
So,
It's exciting.
Thank you again for
Okay.
the work on it. Dr. Taylor is going to give us a dual credit update.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Robbie, Dr. Whittle, and trustees. This evening, we're going to talk about some of our dual credit, both opportunities from this past school year, courses offered in the district, and also venture into some opportunities and plans for the future as well. So first, grounding this work is our board goal to provide relevant learning experiences to ensure that our students will be college and career ready. And here we see our most recent graduating class of 2025 from just a few weeks ago. So we have 2 dual credit partners in Whitehouse ISD. We've had a long-standing relationship with Tyler Junior College, and we continue to partner with them for all of our technical dual credit courses. So think about a lot of the different tracks that are within our CTE program, where students are earning a lot of credit that is specific to a potential career pathway or certification that they will seek to earn outside of high school. So they start some of that in their high school years, get some experience and some hands-on learning, and then go to TJC to complete that degree program or certification. And then we also work with East Texas A&M for our academic dual credit. So that is more of the things that you would think about for a student who is going to go from high school to a 4-year college or university. These are primarily courses that would help them to bank those credit hours so that they're a little further along in their degree plan when they transfer into or are accepted into that institute of higher education. You may remember last year we talked about TJC opting in to become a FAST school. And so that was a great thing for our students and our community because it meant our students that are qualify for free and reduced lunch are able to get tuition-free dual credit. They have that same benefit at East Texas A&M as well. But as a result of that, that changed TJC's structure as it related to technical dual credit. Whereas in the past, our students were able to enroll in those technical dual credit courses that were part of their CTE pathway at no charge for any of our students. However, we have seen a dip in enrollment this year, and we expected that because as a result of this transition to FAST, students now have to pay for those technical dual credit classes if they are not FAST eligible. So that is still a great option for our students that are in courses like some of our medical professions, the automotive program, because those credit hours actually help them to finish those programs at TJC quicker and with less financial investment than if they waited until after high school to do that. So when we think about technical dual credit, that is primarily aligned to our CTE pathways. And you'll see here in the deck the specific areas where there are dual credit courses at TJC that align to those pathways. When we look at our dual credit offerings on the academic side, this year we had 14 courses that we offered at Whitehouse High School with a professor, that's Whitehouse ISD employee, in all of those courses except for art appreciation. That was the only course where we did not have an in-person professor that was a Whitehouse ISD employee. And of those 14 courses, that represents the opportunity for 43 credit hours of college credit through the offerings that we currently have with East Texas A&M. So in order to enroll in these dual credit classes, specifically speaking on the academic side of things, students have to be TSI complete or TSI ready. And there are a couple of different ways that students can achieve being TSI complete. And that stands for the Texas Success Initiative, TSIA, sometimes we just call it TSI. There's different ways that they can achieve that status. The first is through actually taking the TSI test in reading and writing and in math. Those are two separate tests. So they can take that test, earn a certain score, and the state says, yes, we believe that you're college ready. You're cleared to enroll in college courses, be that in high school as a high school student or be that as a high school graduate. The other way is through qualifying scores on their ACT, SAT, or PSAT. So that's a pretty high threshold, but if students score really high on some of those college preparatory exams, it does count as meeting that TSI criteria. So you have to be TSI ready for ELAR, so the reading and math, to enroll in English, history, government, art, or psychology courses. So that's one branch of it. And the others for math. So you have to be TSI complete for math in order to enroll in college math courses. The one not exception to that, but the one additional layer of requirement comes into play when you're talking about which college math course you want to take. So just like in 8th grade or 9th grade, Algebra 1 is the gatekeeper to all future math classes. In a similar fashion, college algebra is the gatekeeper to future higher level math courses at the college level. And so what we encounter a lot of times in our district is that we have students who want to go from Algebra 2, the high school course, into pre-cal. And they can do that, but in order to meet the college readiness standards to skip college algebra, they have to take this other test that's called the ALEX test. And so that's where the ALEX test comes into play, and it is a very rigorous test. And so, but that's the reason that test is in place. If they were to go from algebra to the high school course to college algebra, they meet that requirement of taking college algebra, so then they can go straight into pre-cal after that. So that's the one pathway that's a little bit different, and that's the rationale behind that. That is a different process than what we were accustomed to with TJC. TJC, being a local school, was able to have their own standard for what they would accept. And so our students did have to take a placement test, but that was handled locally. Now being part of the Texas A&M system, there's just a different standard that's in place. And that's what has been just a little bit of a shift for us and something that we haven't been accustomed to in the past. So the numbers that you see here on the screen, this is course completion for the 24-25 school year. So on the technical side, we had 206 completed enrollments for technical dual credit, resulting in 726 hours of credit earned by our students. And then on the academic side, we had 973 enrollments, which amazingly resulted in over 4,000 hours of college credit that our students earned just during the 24-25 school year. And so as we look into the future, one of the things that we would like to be able to look at providing for our students is the opportunity to complete the core curriculum before they graduate from high school. And so in order to do that, there are some things that we would need to look at adding to our program offerings, specifically public speaking, Texas government, and some science courses, probably biology as a first option. We do sometimes have students that will go and take like a dual credit biology at TJC over the summer. But we currently don't have a Whitehouse ISD employee that's credentialed to teach that. So that's another thing looking into the future as what kinds of procedures and programs can we put in place to equip our teachers who want to get those additional college hours to be able to earn the credentialing that's necessary in order to take these courses. Oh, and what you see here, this is some pictures from elementary career days this year. So we start in Whitehouse ISD early talking about future planning and college and career readiness. And here's just a few examples from the spring of those. And then we'll end here. These pictures were selected because they represent kind of what we're doing and what we're working towards. So the first picture at the top, that is third grade students in Miss Lindsay's class at Higgins this past year. And this, you will remember that, I believe it was in September, that we highlighted the drones that Miss Lindsay was using in her classroom. And what that results in, here's our most recent grad walk at Stanton Smith. And so we had some of our kids in the gym doing those things that they love to do in elementary. So all of these programs and things that we're putting into place is to have that full circle experience for our students. And so I'll pause here to see if you guys have any questions.
You mentioned that the CTE cost.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a solution?
So it remains a good option for our students who are planning to, I'll use automotive as an example. So the students can actually complete the automotive certification with just I believe it's a 2-hour course post-graduation. So they take automotive basics, they take automotive 1, they take automotive 2, take one class after their senior year, and they're complete with their certification to go out and do that profession. So for a student that's their plan, even if they don't qualify for free tuition under FAST, it's still going to optimize and maximize their future to make that investment in those dual credit courses now. For our students who are in CTE courses but plan to take a university route post-high school, most of those technical courses do not transfer to a 4-year degree program. They're really specific to that certification area that the student's working towards. So it's just a change in terms of our approach and kind of how we counsel and advise students for their future plans.
We had a dual credit bio in the past?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
We got AP bio.
Yes.
We don't have dual credit.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, The additional requirement for the math, that.
Yes.
The ALEX exam or whatever. Is that affecting our numbers for next year?
It does pretty minimally, less than 20, more like 13, so closer to 10. Students that will have to look at possibly a different placement next year rather than pre-cal, which would have been their preferred placement. But they do have the opportunity, they can take the college algebra and statistics, both dual credit. That would fill their year, and then that would open the door for them to go into pre-cal the following semester or following year, just based on having met that prerequisite requirement.
You said you had to make a certain score on the ACT or the SAT. Does that exempt you from all of it, or you still have to take the ALEX test? Or is that...
It depends on what you're trying to do. So for ACT, for example, for math, it would not exempt you from the ALEX requirement, no. So it would exempt you, it would show that you're college ready. So to translate that, it would say, yes, you're good to go ahead and enroll in at least college algebra. If you want to do something higher than college algebra, there's actually the option, kids can skip pre-cal if they score high enough on the ALEX and go straight into calculus. So the option does exist, but that ACT, SAT, that only shows that you're TSI complete or college ready and able to enroll in those courses.
The ALEX is basically something that everybody takes as a math placer.
So yes and no. A lot of universities and even high schools around the nation do use ALEX. There's both a curriculum and then there's an assessment. So there's kind of two separate pieces, but the curriculum helps to prepare you for the assessment. But the ALEX is in some ways like a diagnostic in that you do have to meet that minimum score. But once the student has taken the test, it does give them modules that they need to complete to sort of study or prep before they take it again. And our students have two opportunities through Commerce to take the ALEX test. They can take it again on their own, but they would have to find another testing provider where they could go and take that test and then have those scores transferred to the university.
We have the same number of math classes offered this next year as we have had in past years.
The same number of courses, yes.
Just a different pathway to get it.
Is there currently demand for any other CTE pathways that we don't offer? Or have we heard about any other programs that are wanting to be implemented, but we're not sure if we have the supply of students to warrant it?
Right, so this year, gosh, is it 2? We implemented 2 new pathways for the 25-26 school year. So it is something that we look at annually. Mr. Holton with the CTE Advisory Committee does look at the labor market data in the East Texas area. And that's really kind of what TEA looks at and in monitoring as well is, are you offering programs that meet the workforce demands of your community? But in short, I mean, the answer is yes, there's always an interest that a student might have that we don't yet have a program for, so it is something that we do look at on an annual basis.
And we've started a very preliminary conversations with some cosmetology folks. We've reached out to a local teacher about starting a program here in the future. We've reached out to the local cosmetology school here to try to build a partnership. Additionally, we toured East Texas Refrigeration. Abby and I did, and then I know we have at least 1, maybe 2 students that will be going over there, or we're trying to set that up, that they're interested in that pathway. So we're trying to open doors and expand and invite people in and push our students out so they get more industry-based experience.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Right, and our last information item is the ESSA Consolidated Grant, and Dr. Jennings, would you like to make a comment on that? You were dying to?
The annual presentation of the entitlement grant that incorporates Title I, II, III, and IV, and then the special ed grant and the CTE Perkins grant. And those are all entitlement grants. Basically, if we apply for them and we check all the boxes that we're supposed to and meet compliance, then the amount of money that they fund us through the formula is what we get.
Pretty easy.
Next, we'll move on to actions on closed session, and we'll start by inviting Ms. Matthews back to introduce Dr. Helm.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Robbie, Dr. Whittle, and members of the board. Tonight, we are very excited to present the lone finalist for the Executive Director of Student Services position, Dr. Maricela Helm. While this is not a new position, it is a new title with some of the recent changes in the central office regarding retirements. We were able to really look at the needs of the district and reallocate to this position to student services to be able to better support the staff, the campuses, and the students of the district. So we're very excited about that opportunity. The selection process was done by committee. The committee comprised of individuals from the curriculum department, human resources, and campus leadership to ensure that we worked collaboratively to make sure that we had the most qualified candidate. Dr. Helm is a leader in education administration and student advocacy with over 25 years of experience. Her background includes significant roles within Wiley, Rockwall, Plano, Dallas ISD, where she was notably served as a teacher, a campus administrator, as well as an executive director of student services. So she has direct experience with this position. Her expertise is crisis management, restorative practices, policy development, which will all be invaluable in our ongoing efforts to enhance the student outcomes and strong school communities. Dr. Helm holds a doctoral degree in educational leadership and is certified both as a principal and as a superintendent. So at this time, we ask that you approve her contract for the 25-26 school year.
Had this ahead of time, we discussed this, and you heard the introduction. Do I have a motion to approve Dr. Maricela Helm as Executive Director of Student Services?
Second.
Holloway, second by Mr. Flanagan. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Welcome.
All right. Well, at
We're
this
thrilled
time,
to have you. We really are. Welcome to White House.
at this time, I'd like her to come up, and then Dr. Maricela Helm, and then her husband, Matthew Helm. And then she also has some family, friends, and colleagues from the Rockwall area that have came to support her. So. Y'all can get a picture with her?
I'll take a picture, yeah.
Did not go. Didn't go.
Hey, oh, y'all are ready quick, man. What if we take everybody and shift? Whoa, that is hot. Yeah, the center is right here. Who wants to be in? So Dr. Maricela and Dr. That's perfect. Golly, I'm screaming into this thing. All right, y'all ready? Perfect. Thank you.
Well, welcome to you both to White House. We're ecstatic to have you. I was teasing Casey that we're going to need to have extra security because Dr. Benson may show up. So, but we appreciate the help. So, all right. All right. Then the next item is our consent agenda. You've all had that obviously to look at. Any questions or comments relative to that? No? Okay, do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Okay, motion made by Dr. Conflitti, second by Mr. Trimble, to accept the financial reports and approve the remaining consent agenda as presented. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. The next is to consider approval of the school nutrition meal prices beginning with the 2025-2026 school year. Seen those two. Any questions or comments about those? Okay. Approve the school nutrition meal prices as presented. Trimble, second by Flanagan. Comments? Carries. Next, we need to administer the oath of office and the statement from Mrs. Conaway. We'll do that for Nick Moss later this week.
Okay, the oath of office. I state your name.
Holly Conaway.
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the Whitehouse ISD Board of Trustees, Place 7 of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the constitutional laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
I will. I do. I will.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, and then statement of officer.
Okay.
I state your name.
Holly Conaway.
Do solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving of withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God.
I have not done any of those things.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I am immensely grateful for your service on the board. I really am. So your input is invaluable. This also takes us to our annual reorganization of the board. So each year we vote for the elected president, vice president, and secretary. So do we have a nomination for president of the board?
I nominate Dr. Todd Robbie.
Motion made by Mr. Flanagan, seconded by Mr. Trimble. Questions, comments, insults?
Thank you.
Tried?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Motion carries. Do we have a motion to, for vice president for the board?
Nominate. I was still writing my stuff.
It's okay.
And we're really grateful for you being the secretary, because obviously we would not be very good at it. So.
Did you get a second?
Not yet.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion made by Mrs. Conaway, seconded by Mr. Trimble. Dr. Conflitti, or seconded by Dr. Conflitti. Okay. Okay. All in favor? Good. Motion carries. And then finally, do we have a motion or nomination for secretary of the board? Motion made by Dr. Conflitti, seconded by Mr. Flanagan. Approve the nomination of Holly Conaway as secretary of the board. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you to all of you for serving. Appreciate that. And then next, we need to approve the dates for the board meetings for 2025, 2026. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. Okay.
On it.
I'm still not sure who moved what, so.
I made a motion.
Okay. Okay. Motion made by Mrs. Conaway, seconded by Mr. Flanagan, to approve the meeting dates as presented. All in favor? Motion carries. And that concludes our agenda for this evening. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Flanagan, second by Dr. Conflitti to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned.